Okay, this is going to be part 3 of my video series. I'm sorry I've got a little bit of noise from the creek here, but I wanted to show you what I'm looking at. All right, so my gear for today, I got my gloves as usual. I like these rubber coated ones. I've got my rock hammer, which is actually just a modified regular hammer. Rock hammers are just as good or better probably. I've got my GAD bar, which I think is one of my most important tools. I've got my standard tool kit. So of course I got my thin crevice tool, my slightly wider one, tweezers, flashlight, snuffer bottle, gold pan. My snuffer bottles are adjustable. You can adjust the tip out there, that way they pack up smaller. And of course I'm wearing my knee pads. It's warm enough out here today that I don't have a wetsuit on, but I do like wearing like a skin tight shirt. It just keeps the water from being on and off and on and off, keeps you just slightly warmer. So one of the first things I do when I get to the river, or when I'm ready to get in, is I fill my water bottle up, my bottle up with water. And the reason for that is that if it's otherwise it's just a big cork. And it's nice to have that anchor on your thing, your piece of chain or whatever, some weight, so that when you throw this in the creek, it just stays where you toss it. So you can see there, even with the gold pan on there, and it's on smooth bedrock with fairly good water, it's basically holding still. And it's nice when your gear doesn't float downstream. So I always use a little bit of weight or an anchor of some sort on my bottle of my gear. Another thing, spit in your goggles. It'll keep your fogging down. Most people know this, but if you spit in your goggles, not the slimy kind of spit, just regular saliva, and then rub it around really good on your lenses, and then dunk them in the creek to rinse most of that off, then your goggles will stay unfoggy for a while, and then you can just keep reapplying. But it's nice you don't have to buy any anti-fog, just psh. As we work up the creek here, I'm looking at these cracks coming down the hill. They're not in the water right now, but this is the inside of the corner, and I can see this line coming down in the rocks right there. That's a good potential, and so I'm going to get into this spot. This is a boulder I'm standing on, so I'm going to get into that spot and then see if there's any more spots down like behind this. You see I got an in-stream crevice with a drop-off. That spot didn't work out. The bottom, I got to the bottom and it was just too deep to work in, and it was really soft clay in there. So I have a feeling it's either a recent crack or something like that. It just didn't seem to have anything in it, and it was too hard to work. So I'm moving down river, and I checked this spot here, and I'm just not gonna be able to work through the overburden. It looks like it could be good, but I can't get through the overburden, so I'm gonna move on. Here's another potentially good spot. The problem is it's gonna be really cloudy. I'm not gonna be able to dig it out. So we've got this, tripping. We got this crevice coming here, which is real nice, right here, kind of with the flow of the river, and then it's got this nice dropout. You can see stuff is accumulating right there, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to clean it out because there's no water flow. But right there, I might be able to clean out. So I'm gonna go in there and check that area. So far, I've been here for about maybe 45 minutes. I've hit 6 spots. None of them have panned out. I'm just hitting spots and moving, hitting spots and moving. And this next spot here, I kind of like the look of, because the whole creek is running through it, and there's this nice drop off. So take a look at this. This nice drop off here. Problem is all the white water is going to make it hard to see, but maybe down in here there's a catch somewhere. I just got to get in there and take a look. Well, this is the beginning of the super crevice that I talked about the other day, and I'll do a video on this coming up, but I want you to see it. You can see up there, that's the start of it right there, up there somewhere. It comes all the way down through here, on down, and down in that hole there, I think, or maybe the next one down, was where I found my biggest nugget ever. But this whole crevice is good, and I cleaned out that section, but I didn't do this section here. So I'm going to work on this section. You can see this good drop off right here. This looks really good, and there's this ridge of rock. You can see where they're jammed in there. So I'm going to try and get below that first, and then I'll see if I can get these rocks out, but that could be really tough. All right, here's the next location. I was coming down this creek, and I noticed this big bit of bedrock sticking out here, and this big boulder right here. And we are currently standing on the inside of the corner. That's the fast outside of the corner. You can tell by gravel in here, and big boulders, and then bedrock that's scoured clean. So you get kind of an idea of where the bedrock is. But behind this lip over here, right there, I found a pocket that had a good bit of gold in it. And then just ahead of it, right off the side of that rock, there's a pocket basically that extends under that rock that had another good bit of gold in it. I chased a bunch of crevices upstream and found almost nothing. And then I got up to where this piece of bedrock here sticks out. and right behind the corner of that, it seems to be harder than the surrounding bedrock, you know, relatively speaking. And there was a good bit of gold behind that, maybe a gram or so right behind there. But this bedrock here you can see is smoother and rounder than, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but this bedrock up here is kind of rough. So I didn't find much gold in this area, and then I moved upriver looking for some more because, hey, you know, you find a good spot, keep moving. Here's one of my better score locations. You can see that the whole flow of the river flows through this one spot, and then it widens out, and there's this little square chunk in the middle. It was kind of interesting piece of bedrock, but behind it was totally smooth and rounded. On the left-hand side on the screen there was a nice crevice, but it had no drop-offs. Even though it had some packed gravel on the bottom, there was basically no gold in it, a couple little flakes. On the right-hand side was a similar little seam, but it had a drop-off, and it was a score there, probably 3.5 or 4 grams. This was an interesting location because the bedrock was so smooth that any catches at all were the only spots that gold could possibly stop. So keep your eye out for these spots. And then to the right-hand side here, it was a little better potential with boulders and such. Here's another spot where I chased this crevice. It kind of goes with the flow, just a little bit across. And if you see a crevice like this heading downstream, any spot you can find a little drop-off or a catch is totally worth taking a look at. And there was a nice little one right here at the top of it. You can see right there. This spot turned out to be better than I expected, but I saw this little thin line and it moved over to the right-hand side here, and there was this bigger pocket, and that pocket had a nice leading edge lip to it. The current is basically in my face here as we're looking, and you can see down in here, there's a little bit of gold right there, and there was quite a bit more underneath it. This was kind of along with the flow of the current crack, and it just had this one little dropout in it here, and there was a decent little bit of gold in it. So make sure to chase them down and chase those dropouts. This one here goes all the way across the river. The left-hand side was the best, and it got progressively less gold in it to the right, but I didn't chase it all the way into the back corner there where all those boulders are. That's on land. Have to do with the detector. This one here, I saw the crevices on the side, thought they looked pretty good, and I chased them into the river, but the area wasn't packed hard enough. I think the crevices just weren't tight enough to hold a decent amount of gold. This crevice here looks pretty good. You can see it there. The boulder pile on the left-hand side is actually bedrock. So behind that piece of bedrock there should be a good catch for some gold, and I haven't gotten into it yet, so that's a future project. But you can see that it looks like a good disruption in the river with some good catches behind it. Looking at this next image here, I would say that the best location is right there. And it's just the good disruption. You can see that little seam in the bedrock cutting down into there, so that's the spot that's probably most likely going to hold gold. But that whole area actually looks pretty darn good, so I probably cleared this pretty extensively. In this image here, you can see a spot right here. And I did find some decent gold in there. It wasn't awesome, but it was okay. But if you come here on the lower part of the screen, look at this spot here. This looks really good, and I don't think I've cleared it yet. So I'm actually going to go back here and take a look at this spot. We are looking towards the outside of the corner here. So this lower portion here would be more towards the inside and actually have a higher potential to be along the gold line. So there you go. That's the best I could do basically of what you need to look for when you're out on a river. Obviously, there's a million shapes of crevices and a million spots to look. And the major two things you need to look for, the first thing is you need to look for hard-packed crevices in harder bedrock, or bedrock that seems to be harder than the surrounding rock, or the best crevices you could find with hard-packed gravel in them, meaning that they're not getting washed out by the river and they've been there longer or haven't cleared before. And the other major thing you need to do is sample. You have to jump around and move from place to place to place until you either get on the gold line or you just get into that random pocket. Most of the gold that I find is in pockets. Every once in a while I'll find a spot where there'll be a crevice that has gold in it, and then just upstream another crevice that has gold in it, and you can kind of trace them up like on a gold line. But most of the time it's a good crevice, and there'll be one pocket on that crevice that has the good gold in it, and then sometimes along that crevice you'll have other little bits of gold along the way. But the major things are hard-packed crevices in hard bedrock, or just hard-packed crevices, I guess, and sample around. As usual, please hit that like, subscribe button, and I will be giving away one of my bottles. They are now ready for sale. So if you're interested in one, just email me on the link below or the email below, and we'll get you a bottle out there so you can have a sweet prospecting bottle. I'll see you next time.